All right, so I am Team Cyborg for right now, just me. But I chose to work with the Emotive Epoch Plus. It's a neuroscanner that gives you a little bit of EEG readings, and then it has some built-in functions for what they call expressive, affective, and then cognitive abilities. Trying to read from your brain. Right now I'm not getting a terribly good signal, of course, now that it's time to present. Like if I sometimes hold it close to my head, you start getting, like all these little black nodes are supposed to be green or yellow or red or something, but we'll see if we can get a little bit of action out of it in a minute here. But basically the way it's set up is, you just put it on your head and it's got little sensors. This one has 14 sensors on it that reads what's happening in your head, hopefully. And so the expressive suite is the part that I worked on because it was sort of the easiest to get immediate feedback from and get an idea of what it's doing. A lot of it is because of this happy little robot guy here. He's supposed to be mimicking what you're doing, so if you're smiling, he's supposed to smile. As you blink, he's supposed to blink. It's got eyebrow movements, but because my sensors aren't picking up super well right now, if I hold it really tight against my head, sometimes they'll pick up and get a little more. But when I go into the active demonstration, I'll just put the mic down and try to hold my head. So the expressive suite is things like where you're looking, if you're blinking, raising eyebrows, clenching teeth, smiling. The affective is supposed to give you excitement or calm states, engagement or disinterest in meditation. Right now, again, I'm completely mellow on everything. And then cognitive suite, I think, is going to be the really interesting one because that's when you start training sort of thoughts to do something. So, there's sort of a neutral, calm mind state where nothing happens. And then they've got a couple of examples, and they've got this little floating cube that you can train to push or lift or pull or rotate. I trained a few, like pushing and pulling the cube closer and further away from me as sort of a test of it. And then they also have a gyroscope, so you can sort of move your head and sort of get that data, and you can use it as a mouse if you wanted to, which is a little tricky if you're trying to get the right spot to click on. You're sort of moving your head around all over the place. But I mean, that's sort of the tool, but the sort of reason why I wanted to try it is because we were working on a stadium at work, and we've been getting a lot into the whole shading of the stadium, and is it going to be an active shade? Is it going to be just close the roof and just be done with it? And of course the client wants to be able to open the roof and close it when they want, which usually means closed a lot of times, but just in case they want to open it. So we thought about having an active sunshade that, as you start becoming uncomfortable, if you have too much sun on you, that you can just sort of think about shade, and it'll shade your particular portion of the stadium, of the seating bowl, and hopefully not affect the field, because that's apparently a no-no, at least while the game's going on. So that was sort of the original idea, and then we thought, well, we can try one of these and see if we can get it to control something. But even aside from controlling your physical environment around you, you could also use it for virtual reality. One of the big problems about virtual reality is sort of understanding the experience of it. You can feel a little nauseous when you're working in it a lot because you have this sensation of moving through your eyes, but your body doesn't feel it. So seeing the discomfort or comfort of someone, as far as just being immersed in the environment, or just how they're affected by the space that you've designed, it's another area that we want to sort of look into. But as a basic example, my first thought was, well, I just need to be able to sort of read the data and do something with it. So I started with a little simple example of a cube that can grow bigger or taller or shorter. It can twist because you have to have twisting towers every time you do something in a node-based scripter, it seems. And then, and I think that's controlled by my smile factor. It'll actually duplicate itself if I blink. So hopefully this will actually do something. So it's broken into two parts. There's two parts to the application right now. One is just reading the data from the headset and writing it out to a file, and then the other part is reading it from the file and then doing something with it. So I'm going to launch this thing, and now it's reading. Of course, the sensors still aren't there, so let me start it up on here. So I'm going to push true. So you can see it's doing something, even though it's not necessarily reading what's happening for me. It's still trying to read something, and it's a little buggy still, but I'm going to put this down and try to hold it to my head and do something purposefully. All right, so supposedly if let's see if I have a signal. I do have a signal now. So if I smile, it's supposed to twist or crash. If I blink, it's supposed to double itself. So you can see a little bit of that happening. It's obviously not really trained quite right. I spent all weekend just trying to get it to communicate and not training myself. Thank you. So it's not quite there yet, but I think there's potential if you can understand the data. And this is a very limited sort of reading the data and trying to understand it. There are other ways you can read the raw EEG data potentially and do something with that and even write it out to a database that you can sort of review someone's experience over time and see like how it affects, you know, how they move through a space or how they understood something. So that's kind of where we'd like to go with it in the future, is like get a little bit more fine-tuned data out of it so that we can cognitively do something like purposefully, I guess. You know, and we've tried to set it up in a way to start with at least that it's not sort of platform specific, because you know we don't all use Rhino. There's like I have like a really simple Dynamo file that sort of works, that should hopefully change, maybe. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But this is just reading, and it's not doing any automated, so hey, it came up with a number. So it is sort of doing something. It's not active yet. You have to sort of push run every time you want to do it. So the next step to this would be to sort of make it where it's active and constantly reading and constantly writing out values. And of course give you more than just one value. So eventually it'll be sort of something that spreads to any software we want to use, whether it's architectural or whether it's visualization, or if we just want to write it to a database and look at a chart of how it's been, you know, how someone experiences things. But that's all I got. You know, I want to say thank you again as I leave to AEC Hackathon. It's been a great deal of fun, and Treehouse, Addison Treehouse, you know, thanks for letting us hang out here. It's a great space. Thanks.